Now that my son Jacob's 10 years old, he needs a more grown-up looking bedroom. Not only that, he's a collector just like his mother, so I need to create a room for him that allows him to display his collections without having it feel cluttered, which I think it does right now. Now the makeover is complete and my son has a much more grown-up and more organized room. I took inspiration for this space from our trips out east every summer, and there are a lot of elements that reflect that. I also was on a bit of a budget. We reused some of the furniture pieces that were in here and added some elements that were a little bit of a saver, including this bedspread across the bottom of the bed. I went with a twin instead of a double and just ran it horizontally instead. Another really great budget-friendly tip is to do a wall treatment that kind of mimics shiplap but is much less expensive by adding these 1x2 inch boards down the length of the wall. The other walls are wrapped in this grasscloth wallpaper, which really is kind of inspired by the ocean for me. One great way to save money in a space is by doing faux Roman blinds instead of fully functioning ones. They're a lot less expensive, they still add visual impact, and what I love about these ones is that they kind of disguise the fact that the windows are not all the same height by ending them at the bottom at the same level. My son loves his collection, so I've put everything in this cabinet. They're all organized but still on display. And now that he has this brand new room, I hope he's inspired to keep it tidy.
What a gorgeous space. I love the grass cloth, but Sarah, I know it can get a little expensive.
It can get really expensive, especially if you're dealing with the real grass cloth.
Yes.
And, you know, that's definitely the higher end because it's made with natural materials. But the great thing now is that you can get a vinyl version of it, which is easier to install, but let me just tell you, not easy to install.
Yes.
And if you're going to hire someone, it can be almost more expensive to pay for the installation than it is for the paper itself.
So you did it yourself?
We did it ourselves.
Oh.
That was our first time and maybe our last time wallpapering. I'm not sure yet. He insists that we're never doing it again. I think I can convince him maybe.
Well, the fact that you're still together means it's okay.
It was a win.
It works.
It was a win.
It's a win. You're still in a relationship. Okay, so this is sort of a version of grass cloth.
That's the paper from his room.
It's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
And if it is real grass cloth, you get the texture of it and the warmth of it. But we're going to talk about how you can DIY it.
Right, and this is definitely a budget-friendly version of this, right?
Yes.
So the first thing you want to do, and I've done it on this panel here, is you want to paint your wall out in a neutral white. That's going to be the background for the texture that you're going to add on top. Okay. And then you're going to want to work with 2 shades of the same color. So of course I went with blues here, and that's the nice thing about grass cloth, now, is you're seeing it in more colors because it used to just be really the neutral beiges that you would see. Yeah. So I went with Kensington blue and a denim wash here in Benjamin Moore. You want to get some on your roller. And I'm just going to you're going to start at the top of your wall. I'm not tall enough to do that here, so we're going to start at eye level. Yep. And you're going to work across the wall rather than vertically. Okay. So just about the width of your roller, you're going to put it on here.
And better to use a roller, obviously.
It is better to use a roller. Okay. The other thing, if you're dealing with a really big wall, that you're going to want to do is add some sort of a glaze to your paint that delays the drying time so that you have more time to work with it. And then you need a brush to add the detail. Okay. And what you want to look for, I'm actually using a wallpaper brush here. It's got very stiff bristles and short bristles. You could use a broom on a handle if you wanted to. Anything that is, has really fine stiff bristles will give this really beautiful effect on the wall.
You want that striation. That's what the thing that's going to make it look like a grass cloth.
Yeah, it adds that subtle texture. So then you kind of go over, when you're working this way, go over a little bit of what you did already with the paint, and you really want to get it on there well. And then you're just going to drag the brush. You may want to get a couple brushes because once it gets loaded with paint, it doesn't really, or give it a wash and wait. Yeah. But see how going over it more adds even more texture?
That's so cool.
And let's say you're a little unsteady and you accidentally go like, whoops, it's a little crooked. The nice thing about adding that glaze to it is that you have time to go back and fix any mistakes, right? Very good. And then you end up with this situation right here, which is a really subtle, isn't that pretty? Yeah, very nice. Just a subtle texture to your walls, It's hard to even think about doing paint techniques now because we grew up in the era of sponge paint. And we're just like, don't do it. We were against it big time, and it's so funny that it's coming back, I actually like it now.
It's come back in a more sophisticated way, I would say, but I don't know. Let's catch up 10 years later and see if we're still saying that.
Well, this is just it. Yeah, if we start busting out
feels
the
like it's
sponges
right.
again.
Yeah, it feels like it looks more sophisticated.
That's for sure. So then if you want to add some more layers to the color, because you can see in the original wallpaper, there's different shades
There's a
of
lot
blue.
of different blues.
And there's the white. Then you can add some more. So that's what I've done here. And this is more textured.
Yes.
And it's layered with a lighter blue and a white. So if you have a nice thin paint, you can actually roll over it and drag it again. If your paint's a little thicker, just take that brush that you were using and dip it in some paint, kind of scrape off the edges a little bit so you're not dealing with too much. And then again, you're just going to drag it across.
Yeah.
I should have used a little bit more paint on that. I was
Well,
being
it's not bad,
a
actually.
little
You
too
just get a-
cautious.
You
Let's
get
go
a
for it.
touch of it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And then you work exactly the same way, horizontally from the top all the way to the bottom, and you're just adding that different kind of depth of color.
Yeah.
To
Very
give
nice.
give it that textured look, and you can layer it on. So if you feel like in one area, see how it's a little bit thick there with the light blue, let that dry completely, and then dip your brush in a darker or a lighter, or sometimes you can even take a dry brush and drag it and smooth it out so it'll dry a little bit faster for you.
Yeah.
And you can go back over it. That's the great thing about this, is that you can fix your mistakes. There's not a problem with that at all.
And there's your DIY grass cloth.
Yeah.
Very good. And voice look great.